Awesome. So it looks like we're live here. So let me just confirm that we are in fact live, and it looks like it. So thank you all for joining today. I know we have a lot of other sessions going on, and I know some other folks will join going in. So I'm happy to be here today to talk a little more about Cherre and how we're working with Placekey to help what we do, which is connect data for our clients. So for those who don't know Cherre is a data connection platform and management platform for real estate data. We help our clients, large real estate investors predominantly, but also banks, insurance companies, connect all their disparate data to make better investment underwriting decisions. And for our clients, that really means being able to take, or maybe just a couple of words before that, Cherre were founded in 2016. Some of our largest investors are Intel Capital, Navitas. We're based out of New York in a normal environment. And we're now just over 50 employees here and a little over 50 clients and partners. I'm not seeing things switch on the main screen. Can we confirm that slides are moving? There we are. They're just moving slowly on that, and that's fine. Excellent. Perfect. So what Cherre does is really allow you to instantly unlock that value data. So we've been talking here across the day about being able to connect different geospatial data sets together in our environment. And that challenge that we see here at Cherre is beyond just the geospatial environment. It's because our model is also more broad. We'll talk about that in a second. And what Cherre allows our clients to do is, first of all, start with all that public data, so data coming from those county records that we heard about in a second, and connect those and make those available for our clients as the basic ground source of truth. What our platform also does is have a set of connections to all those common data sets and applications that our clients will typically use on a day-to-day basis. So that means all those data sets. So SafeGraph is a great example of one of those data sets. A lot of our clients are very much interested in that geolocation, in that foot traffic data and POI data. But that also means a lot of those applications that our clients use. So financial and operational systems, CRM systems, things of that matter. And being able to make that data instantly available to the entire organization means also connecting the data set and doing all the things that you typically do with the data set, cleaning that data, ingesting that data, making it available, but also the very specific things we have to do in a real estate context, which means modeling that data to our real estate model and also in a geospatial context. And what we allow our clients to do is be able to make use of that data in a broad context, right? Now that we've connected all those data sets, those public data sets that we provide out of the box, and the connections to all those standard data sets that our clients use pretty regularly, those are both application connections and data connections, we instantly make those data sets available for our clients for analytics, for machine learning, and for obviously workflow automation, which is a large part of what our clients do. We provide our clients pretty much out of the box with unified information, instant answers, unlocked insights, and really everything that they need in order to be able to answer their most pressing questions about what they own, where they own it, where should they invest, what are their risk profile and access or different risk profiles and different opportunities they have in different areas. How are they performing versus their benchmark? How did they perform in the past and how are they going to perform in the future? We win a lot of awards here at Cherre. We're very proud of that. We win a few more pretty regularly, and some of those will be announced regularly. So I move here to talk a little about how Cherre and Placekey could work together and how we're working with our clients to be able to continue to improve data using and leveraging the Placekey initiative. And first, maybe a statement, maybe a little before that, but most of the work that we do within the real estate industry has to do with connecting data sets and gaining insight from those data sets, right? Some of the things you heard earlier today is once the data is connected, a lot of things that we want to try and answer become a lot easier, right? It's not the complexity of the machine learning models. It's a lot more about making the underlying data sets speak with each other so we can start putting those models to work. And in our environment, that means that the vast majority of those data sets don't have a primary key or some kind of identifier that naturally is unique and allows us to understand a lot or discern a lot from that information. And some of those objects, and you can see here that Cherre's object model is very broad, are things that really don't lend themselves to a geospatial kind of key. So things maybe like a fund or a limited partner or owner, or things of that nature. But a lot of the other ones we do work with very much do lend themselves to a geospatial type of resolution. So things like Are these things in the same county? Are these things in the same building? Are these two addresses talking about the same object? These are the type of things where Cherre spends a lot of time. And as a lot of you who spend a lot of time in this industry know, a lot of time that means either geocoder, so taking an address and converting that to an XY coordinate, or taking XY coordinates and trying to discern based on certain types of logic, what is this object talking about if these things don't really line up the way we want them to do? And often we lose a lot of granularity in that process. And what we're hoping to do as we continue to see here with Placekey, as you can see already on our main screen right now, is continue to add more and more of these data sets connected on that Placekey ID. And that allows our clients, some of the largest investors in the world, to very quickly be able to connect those data sets and identify how they can talk to each other, so long as they lend themselves to that type of environment. And that allows for a lot of obvious integrations, right? So things like connecting geolocation data or POI data. Things like SafeGraph are obviously already pre-keyed with some of that data, and we've already done that matching, and allows us to be able to discern a lot of information that we can connect on top of points of interest. So other information about that Starbucks or other information about that local geography become a lot easier to do. We're trying to map that foot traffic to other data sets become a little easier now. But it's also not just those obvious integrations, it's also some of the non-obvious integrations. So things like being able to look at Comstack data or ADP data, which are two large partners of ours, and helping us try to understand, can we understand a little more about where those lease information is really assigned to which one of those buildings? Or is that demographic data really assigned to this point of interest or that point of interest? And those things can be very interesting, especially on the board. One of the things, those are kind of the obvious and non-obvious things that we do, but another thing that we're looking at is how this might help us behind the scenes as well. So we spend a lot of time working on unmasking owners, so trying to identify who's behind those LLCs or who might be beneficial owners or other types of related entities to this asset. And the same thing we're trying to do is also be able to map more complex deed and mortgage information beyond what we're getting from the county assessor and be able to discern different information from that. And obviously another third example is being able to understand how we might think about multi-building and multi-parcel situations where it's not very clear if the information is talking about one building on the lot or the entire lot. And it's very hard sometimes to pinpoint that exact point that we're trying to triangulate. And those are some of the things here that we can do at Cherre. And we're hoping that we can be using Placekey in the future, not just for some of those obvious things that I mentioned, just doing kind of a match and append and giving back some of that information, but also helps empower some of those things behind the scenes, which is now that we've done some of that secondary work and unmasking some of that information, are those keys now a little more unique to the objects that we're talking about, and can we use that to further be able to connect? And maybe that has another ripple effect down the network, right? So as you saw kind of in the previous few slides, we have a lot of objects here in Cherre. We don't stop it in looking at the parcel or that base lot that things are built on top of. We don't just look at buildings. We have a very complex model because it needs to meet the demands of regular day-to-day real estate people, insurance companies, and banks, right? And that doesn't limit themselves to a parcel, right? There's information about a building that's unique for the parcel. And it doesn't limit itself to a 2D coordinate, right? It needs to be able to take into consideration the complexity of a certain unit being on the 34th floor and another one being on the 12th. And we don't necessarily know the height of those floors. We don't have a very fixed height or Z axes for some of these things. And also the model is not necessarily directly correlated to an object, right? We might have an owner of an object that lives in a certain place and also has a property in another place, but that owner as a construct doesn't really have an object that's attached to that building. Obviously a corporation as well, and we can think of other things that are more abstract that have a tough time really locking into a specific geospatial ID. And it's our job to be able to connect all of these things together. And together with some of the work that we're doing here with Placekey, we're very optimistic that the community continues to help us work together, connecting these data sets such that all the heavy lifting on the easy stuff that Cherre's already done slowly becomes more and more ubiquitous throughout the entire ecosystem. It allows us at Cherre to spend less of our time focused on geocoding and a lot more of our time on those more complex objects that don't require some of that work. And the more time we can spend on that and less time that we have to build stuff, obviously that means more value to our clients and a lot faster deployment times for them and a lot faster time for them to start from zero and get to those actual answers, right? Today, most of our clients are able to get up and running with, a few weeks, and maybe with a lot of complex data sets, single digit months, a couple, 2 or 3. But ideally, we'd like to be able to make that really instant for our clients. And we're hoping in the future that as we build out more of these IDs, we contribute more and more to this ecosystem, such that these IDs are more rich and are more encompassing and allow the community to do more and more with that together. Thank you very much for joining me for this quick 10-minute presentation. I'd love to turn here to questions if you have any. Just before I sign off, I just want to say one quick thing. We have an unofficial motto here at Cherre. Our official motto is follow your data, but our unofficial motto is at the top of the mountain, we're all snow leopards. It's a Hunter Thompson quote from Kingdom of Fear, and the continuation of that quote is, anybody who can do one thing in this world better than anyone else is a natural friend of mine. And it's a constant reminder for us here at Cherre that we're not Renaissance men. We can't do everything better than everyone else. We can only do one thing in this world, and we have to be the best at that in order to be our snow leopard vision. We only do one thing in the world, and that's real estate data, but we're the best in the world. And I'm really excited to answer any questions if you have. And if not, you always know where to find us. I'm at LD, just like Larry David, just a little nicer, at cherre.com, but you can always reach us on our website, cherre, CHERRE.com. Thank you very much. Yeah, it's a great question. So when it comes to ownership unmasking, there are a few degrees here of what that means. So first level is not unmasking, it's just pulling whatever information is coming directly from the county. So the last recorded owner on that registered deed, if that's the case, assignments of lease and mortgages, things of that nature. So all those types of things typically will come a little later in that process. One of the things that we typically see in most of the communities, that LLC is usually amassed for one of two things. Either a single residential owner, that's common. So a single residential owner, very often the case is that it's just one single family home, one owner, single person or a family, or a couple, and they're using that LLC as basically as a holding entity, not really to obfuscate the ownership. And those are fairly easy to unmask from a data science standpoint. We do those fairly easily. A second type of unmasking is when it's a corporate entity trying to obfuscate ownership, and they're using an LLC together with maybe a registered agent or some kind of other obfuscating entity to really mask that they own that entity, right? We do a very good job with that, the long tail as well, to the extent that's possible. That's another way of doing it. Another type of unmasking is just kind of less people trying to obfuscate and just the reality of portfolio roll-up. So think of a very large asset manager, which, buys up 3 or 4 portfolios, which, each one of them has its own LLCs, and they buy more with some more LLCs, and they slowly roll up. And now you have this web of LLCs that all or partially map up to these certain funds or portfolios at the top. That's also where we do some of that unmasking, right? To be able to identify the relationships between those entities, understand that, well, all of these roll up to this entity, all of these roll up to that entity, even though the LLCs inside may have kind of different actual ownership. So that's typically what we do when it comes to ownership unmasking. Excellent. So if there are no more questions, you know where to find me, ld@cherre.com. Please feel free to reach out at any moment. I also encourage you to take a look at some of the other sessions that are keep going for another probably about 10-15 minutes. Some really good ones going on. Please take a look at them. Highly recommended. Have a good one. Take care.